On my resume, it says my educational background started 20 years ago, but it actually started when I was in ninth grade. And it actually started in ninth grade when I transitioned from a private, ethnically diverse, private Christian school. My parents valued education. My mother's an educator. My father was a tree trimmer for 36 years. Then he would come home in the evening, change clothes, and was a custodian at night. So he valued education. Ninth grade, my parents decided to send me to a school across town where I would get a good quality education and it was safe. So me and two of my buddies, Alan Washington and Derek Crockett, every day we would get on that bus and go on the other side of town. What was very interesting is that one day I was in my math class and I went up and asked my teacher for help. And I remember this, I asked the teacher for help and he said to me, "Irving, damn it, if there were fractions in basketball, you would be a crappy player." And I was like, wow. I said, I'm gonna let my mama know about this. So, one of the things only thing, I can do a whole TED talk on my mother. All you need to know about her, former Black Panther, okay? So, I remember the next day going to school with my mother walking down the hallway really fast with my two buddies, Alan and Derek, right behind me. And my mother walking into the classroom and saying to the teacher, "Todd told me what you said. You will respect my son. That's my child." Right there, that became the foundation of my philosophy of education. Everybody is somebody's child. Everybody is somebody's child. I've been very fortunate to be principals in San Diego, Compton, LA, now currently in Santa Ana. Either by appointment or by choice, these have been schools that people did not think could be successful. I had the pleasure of going in Compton in 1997 during a state takeover. Compton was taken over for safety, academic, and financial reasons. When I was in Compton, what happened one month, we had 14 homicides. 2000, the sheriffs came in and took over for the police department because there was so much crime. One of the things that was consistently told to me is that you need to protect the school from the community. Interesting. Protect the school from the community. So my first week in Compton, the Compton Welcoming Committee came and greeted me, okay? It was three bloods that looked like straight out of Compton, okay? They came to see me, the new principal, who was from Long Beach, and they wanted to know if this new principal was a Crip. Very interesting. So I'm not a gangster. I know gang members. So those are bloods. They think I'm a Crip. We did what men do. We talked basketball. And what we did, we talked basketball, and what we found out, talking basketball turned into how these gentlemen lost their childhood through violence, not having a safe place, limited access to schools so they can have a safe environment. So as we kept going through this conversation, they said to me, "Well, Mr. Irving, what are you going to do for the kids of Compton? How are you going to support those kids?" And so, it's very interesting. Everywhere on campus, this is what you saw. Protecting the school from the community. So what I did, I gave them the keys to the school. They had the keys to the gate, the weight room, and the gym. And when I gave them the keys, they said, "Irving, thank you. We got your back. You're taking care of your kids." Because one of the things we have to figure out in education is creative ways to get the communities involved in the school. Because we all know where you have great cities, you have great schools. Why can't that happen in urban education? You think about it, as we speak right now, people are trying to figure out the best way to change schools. We're looking at new standards for math, language arts, science. We have the pundits and the politicians trying to make America the best educational process that there is. I love politicians because they came up with this great thing called No Child Left Behind, and guess what? We still leaving every child behind. So I think you need to think about that. Now, I think what we need to do is facts. One of the things in going in San Diego, Compton, East Palo Alto, Santa Ana, I deal with a lot of immigrants, African American, Hispanic, Filipino, Tongan, every single ethnic group that you can think of. Fact, we know that we're starting to have the highest number of immigrants in the country coming to our schools. We know that's a fact. I had a situation at the school that I'm currently at. I have a student, and one of the things I think that's important is that we have to make sure we know who our students are. I had this particular student named Carlos, 7th grader. Typical 7th grader, sometimes doesn't have his materials, sometimes is, mischievous in the class. We spent a lot of time in my office. And so we were talking one day, and so I was like, we have to figure this out. You're in my office way too much. What can we do to change your behavior? So he looked at me very serious. So I'm thinking, I got it. I'm going to penetrate. He's going to make a great decision. I said, what's going on? He said, so tell me. He said, Irving, do you think you can beat me running? I looked at him, and I'm like, I thought for a second, I might not be able to beat him running. But what happened, it made me understand, maybe he's not understanding what I'm trying to ask of him. Maybe I need to be a little more patient. Fast forward 3 months later, his father came to my office. And when his father came to my office, he said, can I see my son? Right away, I noticed his hands. His hands, I can tell he's been doing a lot of work. His hands look just like my father's hands. My father was a tree trimmer. A lot of work with his hands, so you can see that he's doing really hard work. So I said, no problem, I'll get your son, wait here in my office. So I brought his son into my office, and without saying a word, they embraced, and they started crying, tears falling down their face like a waterfall. I'm standing there watching. I don't know what's going on. I start crying. So afterwards, I said, what just happened? And he said, Mr. Irving, I've been in Mexico the last year and a half. I've been sending money to my family here, and I wanted my son here to get a good quality education. And I was like, wow. So sometimes when we look at facts, I don't look at facts. I look at names and faces. A fact that this student who I was talking to, that was somebody's child. And the fact is, we know that every 20 seconds someone drops out of school. The fact, if this young man isn't successful, that's on me, and that's my fault. They say it takes a village to change a city. That's an African proverb. And sometimes a village can be like a school. But sometimes everyone doesn't believe in that. One of the things I think that's important for me as a principal is to support teachers. So many times in education we want a teacher bash, but one of the responsibilities we have to do is find supportive ways to help teachers. I had a particular coach on my campus in high school, and if you know high school, coaches kind of have the attitude like you can't tell them anything. And so I had this one particular coach, and I said, hey, coach, this is what I need you to do. Why don't you, try to talk to your students a little bit? He said, no, Irving, I'm not doing that. They need to listen to me and just follow my directions. I said, do me a favor, coach. Do this. Ask the kid the name, ask them their story, and then you share your story. I'm not doing that, Irving. I'm not doing that. So a couple of weeks later, coach walked up to me. You know how coaches kind of walk up with their whistle and everything. Irving, I tried what you told me. Jeremiah, he'll be the first one to graduate from high school. He wants to go to USC. He wants to major in engineering. And then he just walked away. So, and I just kind of laughed, like, okay, well, you tried it, no problem. But what coach didn't even realize, I already knew that he had did that. Because Jeremiah came to me and said, Irving, coach asked about me. He asked my name. He asked about my family. He asked about my goals. He even shared some stuff about him. Mr. Irving, let me ask you a question. Is coach dying? Is he okay? And so it was really, it just really shows what can happen if you take time to make connection with students. One of the things we always know, students need to have some type of meaningful, trustful relationship on campus. You capture a kid's heart, they'll do anything for you. Anything. And so I think that's something that we need to always remember. This picture right here, powerful picture. As educators, we have an incredible responsibility. Parents send their most prized possession to us every single day. Parents love their kids. I don't know of any parents who keep the good ones at home. They send their most prized possession to us. So we have a responsibility, and I'm working in a district that I really love in Santa Ana. We just had our principals retreat last Thursday and Fridays, and our superintendent said it is our responsibility to make sure every single kid has hope. That's what we want. We want to make sure every single kid has hope. Because if they have hope, they can accomplish anything that they want. And so many times in urban schools, there's no hope. So we have to be the ones who create that hope. What has to also happen, we want to look at students as everyone's child. Because if we look at students as if they're everyone's child, we're going to have a different attitude. If we treat them as if it's our son or daughter, our niece or nephew, we're going to have a different attitude. And one of my big responsibilities is making sure that through this educational process, and as through a principal going into urban schools where people think the possible can happen, make the impossible happen. And if I make, this is a simple fact, how I talked about the community, thinking of creative ways to get the communities involved, making sure we know our students, making sure I'm supporting teachers. But one simple fact, if every single decision that we make is based on best with students, what we will do, we will eliminate racism, sexism, classism, and we will give every single child some type of hope. Thank you.